So the Big Ten is hiring their coordinators, and many of them have been hired at this point. D'Anton Lynn to Penn State, all these other guys. But USC, Rutgers, and Ohio State are still searching. Now, let's start with USC because according to reports, this one is pretty much a done deal at this point. And Zach and I told you about a week ago that, it was pretty much a done deal at this point, but things were kind of just needed to be announced. And right now you've got reports from 24/7, CBS saying that Gary Patterson is closing in on being the defensive coordinator at USC. Now, when this news first broke by Scott Schrader over there at We Are SC, the On3 site for USC, that there was discussions with Gary Patterson, a little uneasy about it because there was some news, some rumors that Patterson might want to get rid of the defensive staff. Well, it looks like Patterson may have accomplished that with one of the coaches, as Doug Belk, the secondary coach there at USC, does not have his contract re-upped, extended, whatever you want to call it. That happened on Tuesday, and so it looks like Gary Patterson will most likely come in and replace Doug Belk there as that position coach. I mean, it's not for sure. I mean, it could also be that Gary Patterson has his own coach for that he wants to bring in and could possibly do that. We'll see how it all shakes out. That could be what's holding up some of this news, is that they want to get all the ducks in a row when they announce it. Who really knows? But that's kind of the way things are trending right now. I think it's going to be very surprising if Gary Patterson is not the guy. And if he's not the guy, I think that you're seeing a complete reset in a coaching search here. Maybe Wink Martindale, maybe somebody else, Corey Batone from Missouri, but those names seem to be long gone at this point. It seems like Gary Patterson is the guy. So we'll see how that works out, especially with Doug Belk and his contract not being extended. The next one is Rutgers, who is hiring their defensive coordinator. Indiana fans, we got some talking about you to do here, because it does look like Rutgers wants Ola Adams to be the defensive coordinator there at Rutgers. Now, Ola is the safeties coach over there at Indiana, did a fantastic job this season. Lewis Moore, Amari Farrell are, they've been fantastic this year at the safety position for Indiana. And he's done a really, really good job. Apparently, Ola does have some connections to possibly make Greg Schiano want to bring him in as the defensive coordinator. And it's kind of lined up with the timeline too, right? Rutgers has had this position open for almost 2 months now. And so the thought process is, okay, well, if we're going to do this, we need to get somebody good. But the problem is that Greg Schiano is known as a pretty tough coach to work for, and Rutgers is not exactly the most well thought of place to go start your coordinator job or whatever else it might be. Now, maybe Ola does not care about that and he just wants to go someplace and be a defensive coordinator. If so, then Greg Schiano is typically a good guy to be a defensive coordinator under, and a lot of good coaches got their start as a coordinator coach or a positional coach at Rutgers. It's not a school that, if you do well at Rutgers, typically people are going to take notice because they're going to say Rutgers doesn't have the talent. He did well there. Let's give him a shot over here. Let's give him a shot there and see what he can do. So if Ola does take that route, he would be betting on himself. He would be betting on his ability to go there and create a good defense for Greg Schiano. I would love the hire if it happens. But at the same time, we're also 2 days removed from the national 3 days removed at this point, if you're listening to this Thursday morning, from the national championship, and he's still not hired. You would understand, like, okay, take Tuesday to celebrate. Okay, work things out with your contract on Wednesday, and you would think that you would announce it then, but that's not been what's happened at this point. So if Ola is not announced the defensive coordinator at Rutgers by the end of Thursday, maybe it happens on Friday. Maybe there's like a news dump on Friday that goes for. But if it doesn't happen by Friday late in the day, I would say then Rutgers is probably going to have to go look elsewhere, or worst case scenario, not worst case scenario. There are worse things. Rob Smith could always be rehired. I guess not. Let's hope not. I hope I didn't speak that into existence. But I think the other scenario here is probably that Greg Schiano takes over and the play calling on defense. It just did not go well last season. It was obvious that he did do that. So maybe he thinks we just need to, get somebody that I can trust. I can trust myself or something. if that happens, I don't love it for Rutgers. I don't love it for Greg Schiano, but if you can't find somebody, what are you going to do? It's also possible that Greg Schiano is just completely locking in on Ola Adams here and wants him. I mean, that's kind of what he did with Kirk Shiraka, right? He just kind of locked in on him. Kirk didn't really want the job, from what some reports out there were saying. That's not me reporting it. That's me reading other reports and telling you what they said. But that is kind of a possibility of what could be happening here. In all honesty, none of us really know. Greg Schiano does a great job of holding this stuff close to the vest and having some secrecy here in this. It could be somebody that nobody is talking about for Rutgers. And like I said, if we get to the end of Friday and it hasn't happened yet, then we might just have to throw our hands up in the air and say, Greg's got somebody or Greg's got himself at this point. We'll see what happens. The final coordinator position to talk about is Ohio State. Ohio State still has an open offensive coordinator position. This would look to be the most attractive offensive coordinator position in the country, if you ask me. It could rival some offensive coordinator positions in the NFL, and that's why there are some people that think Ohio State might go out and steal a coordinator from the NFL and bring him in to Ohio State. I mean, Ohio State is probably the first team, maybe not ever, but the first team in a while to have two players in the top 5 of the Heisman odds on FanDuel, Jeremiah Smith and Julian Sayin, both tied for 4th in Heisman odds on FanDuel. This is probably the only offense in the country that has ever done that. It's probably the only offense in the country that does it right now. I mean, it's not uncommon to have a really big school and a really big program, really big brand, and have one player in there, but to have two, that is pretty incredible that Ohio State has that. And I think whichever offensive coordinator is interviewing for this job would probably look at that and say, yeah, I think I can parlay this into a head coaching position somewhere in college, or maybe get myself back to the NFL at a better job there. I mean, we saw what happened with Chip Kelly. He got a massive like $6 million plus deal from them. So the guys next to me here is Press Taylor. I know he has the Jaguar stuff on, but he's actually the offensive coordinator over there at the Chicago Bears. This is one that's been kind of rumored out there a little bit. Some insiders aren't really giving their thoughts too much on this, but my guy Eric Boggs, who did the transfer portal recap with me for Ohio State, he has been reporting with his insider over there that Press Taylor interviewed for the job, and apparently there is a possibility that Press Taylor and JT Barrett, the Chicago Bears quarterback coach, could possibly come over to Ohio State. We'll see if that happens. It's a name that's out there right now, and it's something that would kind of make sense, especially when you think about how good the offense for Ohio State could be, but also, somebody that would leave that position there with the Bears as the passing game coordinator. You would think, how would that really go? I think I might have said offensive coordinator earlier. I apologize. He's just the passing game coordinator over there. But obviously somebody with that kind of experience in the NFL would be thought of highly, especially coming in with Julian Sayin, Jeremiah Smith, and some of these guys in this offense that could really do some damage next season. So we'll see if that one happens. The other one that I think is also a possibility, Chandler Whitmer, the quarterback coach over there at Indiana. He was actually a GA for Ohio State at one point years ago, and so he does have a connection to Ohio State. Indiana did a fantastic job this season. I think if you're Ohio State, though, this seems a little bit underwhelming to some fans. Chandler Whitmer, for him to come in there. You have guys on the staff for Ohio State that have been coaching for longer than he has. Former quarterback at Illinois, transferred out to a community college, played there, and then played at UConn for a few years. He was a GA at Ohio State in 2019, made his way on over to Clemson, had some time in the NFL with the Los Angeles Chargers and then the Atlanta Falcons, and then just made his way over to Indiana as a quarterback coach and co-offensive coordinator too. He's not just the quarterback coach, but doing that over there. And it's not uncommon too for teams to look at Indiana and say, hey, you got somebody we want. I mean, you look at what happened with Tino Sinceri last year at UCLA. Now, that did not go well. I don't think Ohio State would look at that and say, oh yeah, let's sign up for that. That went so well. But it is an indication that other teams might be looking at a similar situation like that. So we'll see what happens. If that were to happen, I would think that Whitmer would be more than just the offensive coordinator. I think you'd have to hire a bigger name than that. But we'll see what happens and we'll go from there. The final name that I have here, and this is going to rub some Ohio State fans the wrong way, I know that, but Jonathan Smith, former head coach over there at Michigan State. Jonathan Smith actually does fit Ohio State pretty well. He runs an offense that's pretty similar to Ryan Day. And I think if you're an Ohio State fan, obviously, there's a number of Ohio State fans that don't appreciate the demeanor of one Jonathan Smith. And I get that. He is a pretty quiet, soft-spoken guy. Not soft-spoken, but he's just not the most authoritative guy that comes in the room. He's definitely not Matt Patricia. He's definitely not some of these other guys that you might think of. But he would be somebody that does fit the offensive structure of Ohio State. He is somebody that has been interviewing for offensive coordinator jobs in college football for a while now. He didn't just go right on back to Oregon State and coach there after getting fired at Michigan State. He didn't really even have a shot at UCLA. And so the thought is that if Jonathan Smith wanted to, he probably not if he wanted to. If Ohio State wanted him, they could probably get Jonathan Smith. And then there was also some reporting out there from Mike Washman, who I shared one of his tweets before, that Jonathan Smith was somebody that Ohio State had their eye on and might try to get an interview with. So if you want my opinion on who I think is going to be the next offensive coordinator for Ohio State, I still think they're going to try to pluck somebody out of the NFL. But if that doesn't work with Press Taylor, or if that doesn't work with Todd Monken, who's most likely following John Harbaugh to wherever he goes and stuff like that, Jonathan Smith is somebody that it could look like could be your offensive coordinator there at Ohio State.